Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, SOJNMS. Postgraduate Diploma in Journalism and Mass Communication, PGJMC. JMC 02 Mass Media and Society. Block-1 Relation between Mass Media and Society. Unit-1 Indian Society, Historical and Sociological Perspective. 1.0 Objectives. After going through this unit, you should be able to describe the evolution and growth of Indian culture, explain the present structure of Indian society, describe the caste system of India, and analyze the co-identification needs of the Indian people. 1.1 Introduction. In this unit, we divided Indian history in three periods: the ancient, the medieval and the modern. The ancient period begins with the Indus Valley civilization and ends with the Turkish raids on northern India in 1000 AD. The medieval period continues up to the coming of the British during the mid-18th century. From the arrival of the British till the present, this period is considered as the modern period. This division usually equates the ancient period with the Hindus and the medieval period with the Muslims. We shall discuss religion as one of the primary factors molding LH Indian culture. In the ancient period, the Hindu religion played a significant role in the development of Indian culture and tradition. In the medieval period, Islam had relatively strong influence in our culture and tradition. Later on, during the modern period, the British culture and literature brought about a reform in our religious traditions and beliefs. This reformation played a primary role in our tradition and culture in the modern period. In this introductory unit, the focus is on the modern historical events of the critical periods of India, which largely shaped the evolution of Indian society and the distinct Indian way of life. We shall also discuss how different invasions shaped the Indian culture, tradition and values. We will discuss the caste system and why it is still operating in various places in our country, and the great role women have played in our society. You will hence understand the ethos of our civilization. We shall try to understand the importance of women in our society, and at the same time we shall focus on their plight. The discussion will help you to understand the other elements of the modern Indian society, so that you will be in position to grasp the essence of the subject matter of this course and analyze it to make a meaningful intervention in our day-to-day life. Without this grasp on the evolution of our society, we may fail to develop a perspective on the role of media in society. 1.2 Cultural Evolution, Historical Perspective. This unit is intended to acquaint you with a brief description of the Indian society from the historical and sociological perspectives. This would assist you to understand the values, traditions, and attitudes that shaped the distinct Indian way of life, and the cultural legacy that is retained by all Indians within and outside the country even today. The understanding of the social structure, institutions, the beliefs, the vision and the perceptions of the Indian mind is necessary to grasp the relationship between Indian society and mass media. Mass media do not operate in isolation. They are shaped by the people, and in truth influences the people. Hence, it is imperative to understand the social context, the social milieu and the environment in which human beings share communication. The Indian civilization can best be traced back to the Indus Valley civilization. Harappan culture, in 2300 BC. The antecedents of the Harappan culture were the most extensive of ancient civilizations were spread over in the Indus plain covering Punjab and Sindh, and also Rajasthan and Kathiawar region of Gujarat. It is not known who the builders of the Indus civilization were. In all probability they were a Mediterranean race, allied to the Dravidians of India, the latter being the original inhabitants of the Indo-Gangetic plains. With the ingress of the Aryans, the Dravidians crossed the Satpura range into Peninsular India. Archaeological excavations reveal that Harappans were phallus worshippers reflecting many elements of the religion of the Dravidian inhabitants of India. The citadels of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro stand even today as symbols of a highly developed urban culture, revealing the deep knowledge of the inhabitants in town planning and management of excellent drainage system. The Indus people were also the earliest people to develop farming. They cultivated wheat and barley and produced cotton and wool cloth. The alloy of bronze mixing copper with tin was introduced by the Harappans. The people of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro invented the potter's wheel. The Harappan used an atypical script which had no resemblance to the early Egyptian or Mesopotamian scripts of the contemporary period. Evidences of trade links both within the northern and western areas of the subcontinent, as well as between people of Indus Valley and those of Sumeria, Persian Gulf, and Mesopotamia exist. In the following paragraphs we shall discuss how the Aryans came to India and settled down. The Aryans brought a distinct Celtic culture with them. This culture enriched the local culture and slowly the unique culture, customs and traditions of India evolved. We will try to outline this evolutionally in the following pages. 1st February 2001 Arrival of the Aryans. Originally, the Aryans lived in the areas east of the Alps, in the region known as Eurasia. They spoke Indo-European languages, which are still used with some variations throughout Europe, Iran, and a major part of the Indian subcontinent, including Pakistan and the northern and western regions of India. The people of northern India speak Indo-Aryan languages, Punjabi, Hindi, Urdu and Bengali, and are of predominantly Mediterranean, European, racial stock. Very little research has been done regarding the ethnic origins of the Indian population. The fact is that the Indian population is polygenetic and is a confusing mixture of racial strains. Very few can claim to belong to any particular racial stock. The Dravidians, who comprised the pre-Hellenic racial types, originated the city civilization of the Indus Valley. They were spread over the whole of India prior to the advent of the Aryans. The latter encountered a highly civilized Indus Valley with its big towns. The Indus Valley people were essentially city people. The Aryans were a pastoral race. Though it is not known what happened to the Indus people, it may be assumed that they moved away into interior India beyond the Vindhya and the Satpura ranges. It is possible that some intermingled with the incoming Aryans, who adopted the Indus culture as their own. The earliest Aryans settled in the area covered by eastern Punjab, Afghanistan and western Uttar Pradesh. As migrants, Aryans came in several waves and clashed with the local inhabitants to establish their supremacy. Clive's success of Aryan invasion in India is attributed to their possession of trained horses, horse-drawn chariots, and better weaponry. Aryans were also very knowledgeable about climate and agricultural operations like plowing, sowing, harvesting and threshing. 1st February 2002 Advent of the Vedas. The Rig Veda, which is considered to be the oldest of four Vedas, Samaveda, Yajurveda, Atharvaveda and the three later additions, is a collection of prayers in Sanskrit language offered by the Aryans to gods of fire and rain. Rig Veda is believed to have been composed around 1500 BC. The four Vedas together constitute a rich repository of the Aryan culture. They were preserved mostly in oral tradition throughout India with reverence. The Rig Veda also mentions artisan communities, like those of the carpenter, the weaver, the potter and the leatherworker. Social distinctions. One in the Rig Veda essentially denotes skin color, and Aryans were described as fair complexioned, while the native inhabitants were stated to be dark. This color distinction seems have contributed to the creation of social divisions. The Dasas and Dasis conquered by Aryans were treated as slaves and Sudras. This society was divided into four principal groups: priests, warriors, traders and the common people. In ancient India, the people used to communicate through oral tradition. The dominant form of worshipping gods was through the recitation of prayers and offer of ritual sacrifices. Both individual and collective prayers were recited loudly. The prayers were offered to gods in chorus by all the members below tilting to individual tribes. The students of communication should take note of this aspect. It is vital to know that this oral pattern of communication is responsible for forming a distinct method of communication in India. Later Vedic period. For purposes of singing, the prayers of Rigveda were set to music aid. This modified collection was known 11 as Samaveda. The Yajurveda contains not only hymns but also rituals which elevate to accompany their recitation. These reflect vividly the socio-political milieu in which the post-Rigvedic Aryans lived. The Atharvaveda elaborates on the weapons and also deals with channels and spells to ward off evils and diseases. An elaborate description of non-Aryan modes of worship is given in the Atharvaveda. Atharvaveda. The later Vedic texts have been compiled during 1000 to 600 BC. The two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are concerned with the events which took place in India between 1000 and 700 BC. The Mahabharata, as it survives today, is the longest single poem in the world. The epic revolves around the war fought by the descendants of the Khan clan over land rights at Kurukshetra in the Indus basin, presently in Hayam. The epic is held in high esteem by all Hindus for its message of dharma. He events detailed in the Ramayana are believed to have occurred at a much later date in eastern Tamil Nadu and Bihar. The Ramayana also reflects the Aryan peace threatened beyond the Vindhya mountains into peninsular India and the conflict with the local Dravidian communities to establish Aryan supremacy. The organization of Hinduism is the main claimant of the later Vedic period. The literature of the period reveals the development of higher philosophical and religious texts. The later Vedas, the Brahman Tildas, Tyaranakya and the Upanishads are titled potent contributions to Sanskrit literature. In the Upanishads we have the Hindu philosophical thought in its developed form. The doctrines of Karma, Maya, Punarjanma, Mukti and other special features of Hindu thought are fully elaborated in the Upanishads. These teachings have taken deep root in the minds of Indians. The later Vedic period was remarkable for great intellectual activity. Literary knowledge was systematized and documented in the form of 6 Vedangas. Among the Vedangas, the Kalpa is a significant contribution. It contains the sutras, Grihya, and Dhamma Sutra, while the Grihyatid sutras deal with domestic rituals. The Dharma Sutra explain the social customs and usage. The most important social doctrine propounded during this period was Varnashrama. Dham. The concept of Varn stands for the division of society into occupational groups. The doctrine of the 4 castes, the Brahmins, the learned and the guides, the Kshatriya, warrior, the Vaishyas, the trader, and the Sudras, the common man. The tiller, the worker, came into being. The 5th category, the Panchamas, was added at a much later stage. Sangamage, literary contributions. The Sangamage is considered to be a landmark in the history of South India. An academy of Tamil poets and bards flourished at Madurai in 500 BC and 300 AD. This academy produced classical literary works in Tamil language under the patronage of Chola, Chera and Pandyan kings. 1st February 2003, Advent of Jainism and Buddhism. The Varn system generated many tensions, specifically in the areas of Hindu religion. The ruling and trading communities reacted to the domination of the priestly class of Brahmins. The upper castes, which stressed the accumulation of wealth and luxurious living during the later period, received stiff resistance from those belonging to the lower castes suffering social inequalities. It is in this context we observe the introduction of Jainism as a distinct religion by Mahavir during the 5th century BC. He preached liberation from worldly bonds and adoption of the path of nonviolence, ahimsa, for acquiring such liberation. Gautama Buddha, who was a contemporary of Mahavir, also preached and propagated the simple, Puritan, ascetic life. Buddhism appealed to the masses who sacred due to the social inequalities and the supremacy of higher castes. Buddhism particularly attracted people where the hold of the upper caste Aryans was marginal. Thus, the monarchies in eastern UP, Bihar, and foothills of Himalayas, Magad, Kosla and Kausambi, adopted Buddhism and made sincere efforts to spread the religion of equality and a classless society based on love and respect for all creatures. The Pali, a variant of Sanskrit language, which was the spoken language of the common people, contributed a lot to the spread of Buddhism, but Buddhism could not survive very long in India because the Buddhist monks at a later stage became corrupt and accumulated wealth. Velika Gautama Buddha Tad Kadiri led. However, Buddhism had spread into Sri Lanka, China, Japan, the Far East, Laos, and Cambodia. 1st February 2004, external invasions. Later on, around the 5th century BC, several principalities fought along themselves in northwestern region. Taking advantage of this disunity and political chaos, the rulers of Persia expanded their empire, penetrating into northwest India. In 360 BC, Darius annexed and ruled Punjab and Sindh as provinces of the Persian Empire till Alexander's invasion in 331 BC. Alexander conquered Asia Minor, Iraq, and Iran and finally reached India through Kabul and Khyber Pass into Punjab, defeating Purushottam Porus in 326 BC. The Greek invasion provided the occasion for ancient Europe to come into closer contact with ancient India. Alexander added to his empire a vast Indian territory much larger than Persia. His invasion opened up land and sea routes to India and paved the way for Greek merchants, craftsmen to extend their trade. In 321 BC, Chandragupta Maurya, under the guidance of his mentor Chanakya, annexed Punjab, driving away the Greeks. Subsequently, he extended his empire to Magad, Gujarat and South India. The accounts of Megasthenes, the Greek ambassador in Chandragupta's cow, are a valuable source of knowledge of the social events of the time. Chanakya's treatise Arthasastra is considered to be a valuable contribution on politics and economic administration. The most significant contribution of the Mauryan period was made by Ashoka, the grandson of Chandragupta, who in 274 BC embraced Buddhism and propagated the doctrines of social equality, justice and non-violence. A series of invasions from various foreign powers along the northwest frontier took place from 200 BC onwards. The first to cross the Hindu Kush were the Indo-Greeks. They contributed to the growth of Sanskrit and Prakrit languages. The Parthians, who originally lived in Persia, then penetrated western under. The Parthians were followed by the Kusans from Central Asia. The Kushan king Kanishka built a large empire extending from Central Asia to Uttar Pradesh. The Indo-Greeks, the Parthians and the Kushans became an integral part of Indian society, adopting the local and language script. They also contributed immensely to the enrichment of inland culture. The Kushans, who controlled the Silk Road passing through Central Asia to the Mediterranean from China, were enterprising traders in addition to being great art lovers. The Buddhist sculptures found in Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh are valuable art treasures of the Kushan period. It was during the 1st century AD that Christianity came to India through trading sailors from the west. Street Thomas is believed to have arrived in Malabar in about 52 AD. The Arabs and the traders from many Middle East countries and Egypt established trade links with western and southern period of India during this time. The relationship was mainly confined to trade. However, some Indian embraced Islam religion. This continued for a long time. Later, attracted by the wealth of India, Arabs organized a number of military expeditions from the northwestern frontier of Indian kingdoms after the 7th century AD. Those expeditions were mainly to plunder the country's rich stock of gold and other valuable assets. These expeditions were not aimed at territorial expansion. The aims were confined to Sindh and Upper Indus region. However, the Turkish invasions during 1000 AD were not only confined to plundering of wealth but also to destroying the military power of the local kings. Muhammad of Ghazni's occupation of Punjab served as a key to unlock the gates of the rich hinterland of India. His frequent attacks disturbed the basic foundations of Indian polity. During the 11th century AD, Muhammad Ghori defeated a number of Hindu kings and laid the foundation for continued Muslim rule in India. The Delhi Sultanate under the rule of the slave dynasty, Khiljis or Tughlaqs, consolidated Muslims' rule not only in North India but also in the south, extending up to Kannada, present Karnataka. Impact of Muslim rule. The mingling of the Hindu and Muslim cultures led to the growth of new religious movements and new styles in arts, architecture and music. Urdu tuteled language, an amalgam of Persian words and Indo-Aryan grammar, became the contract language of the Mughals. The BBRT movement, propagated by the exponents like Mirabai, Chaitanya, Ramanuju, Vallabhacharya, Kabir and Guru Nanak, was greatly influenced by Islam. It emphasized simple devotion and faith and protested against the domination of priests and upper castes. While the compositions of Kabir are A at F. Contribution to Hindi literature, G.W. Nanak preached in the Punjabi language and Mirabai's Bibijans are in Brij Bibi Isba of Mathur. Bengali literature was enriched by Chaitanya and his followers of the Vaishnava cult. TLRE indulged Lal architecture, got amply reflected in the monuments like Qutub Minar and the exquisite forts of the Mughal emperors. 1.3 Salient features of the Indian society. Ethnic plurality. Plurality is the hallmark of Indian society. Ethnological studies reveal the existence of 6 main racial stocks in India. The earliest was the Negrito, who are found even today in Andaman and Nicobar Islands and in some of the primitive tribal groups of South India. They were followed by the Proto-Australoids, the Alpine, the Mongoloid, and the Mediterraneans whose skeletal remains were even found in the Harappan sites. The last to come were the Aryans. The Proto-Australotids constitute the basic element of the Indian population and they are found in many of the tribal communities in central India, eastern India, Bihar and Orissa. The Mediterranean race is associated with the Dravidian culture. The concentration of the Nagaloid people is in the northeastern and northern fringes of India. Linguistic plurality. 4 major languages are identified in the country: Dravidian, Austric, Sino-Tibetan, and Indo-Aryan. The Indo-Aryan language was originally the archaic Sanskrit, introduced by the early Aryans. This has great similarities with Latin and German languages. Prakrit, which was allied but different from Vedic Sanskrit, became popular as the spoke 11 language of the Aryans. The alphabets of many of the Indian languages were actually derived from Tilda and Brahmi script, which came into being during 4th century BC. Telugu, Kannada, Tamil and Malayalam, which constitute the Dravidian group of languages, are purely of Indian origin. Some of the allied Dravidian languages are spoken by the tribal 5 Lactodas, Kallas and Kadugas of South India and Gandhi, Kai, Nike of MP, and Moto Adpuru, Oron, of Bengal or Bihar. The Austric languages are Mundari, Kol, Stintil, Kokwa and Kalmsi. These languages are spoken by the tribal in central India, extra-tilde India and parts of northeastern region. The Sino-Tibetan languages are spoken by the tribals in Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, and the people in Himalayan ranges. The Indian constitution now recognizes 18 major languages but as many as 1,650 mother tongues are spoken throughout the country. Despite this great linguistic diversity, all Indians feel that they celebrate together the rich literary and cultural heritage of Sanskrit. Religious plurality. A religious orientation of outlook is one of the basic characteristics of Indian culture. Religious tolerance has been the essence of all religions of Indian origin. Hence, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Judaism and Zoroastrianism would flourish without much interruption in the country. Contemporary Indian thinkers and saints have pointed out the contributions of each great religion to humanity and emphasized their underlying unity of thought. Spirituality and Sada constitute two distinct dimensions of Indian culture, enable the Indian culture to retain its originality and uniqueness. 1.4 Caste System. 1st April 2001 Banaras. The cultural, religious and racial diversity of India is attributed to the caste system and its variations. The social stratification have divided the Indian society into thousands of small societies. Although diametrally 1 and G are distinct from each other, they are often confused as identical. The Bhagavad also gives a classification of the society into four varnas in terms of gunas, psychic traits. The post-Vedic period reflects a very rigid stratification of the varnals. Each one was regarded as a distinct unit, almost complete in itself for its social life. It may be noted in this context that while the Varna system is uniform throughout the country, the caste jati system evolved gradually with many regional varieties. The development of caste system is generally attributed to doctrine of the religious unity of the family, and to doctrine of Swakamasya and Swadharma, enjoining a way of life to be pursued by the individual according to the community one caste in which one is born. Caste is defined by noted sociologist M.N. Srinivas as a hereditary, endogamous, usually localized group, having a traditional association with an occupation, and a particular position in the local hierarchy of castes. Relations between castes are governed, among other things, by the concepts of pollution and purely and generally. Maximum connotationality occurs in the castes. 1st April 2002 Judgment system. Tradition, customs and rules of behavior differ from one caste group to the other. But each caste tries to maintain its influence over its members and regulates intercaste and intracaste social interactions. Although different castes are arranged in hierarchical order and social distances are maintained, there are rarely situations in which one caste secures services from the members belonging to other castes. Such dependence among the castes is traditionally known as judgment system, referred to by sociologists like M.N. Srinivas as the vertical unity of the castes. Under the judgment system, each caste group within a village provides certain social, mass media and society religious and economic services to other castes members. For illustration, the Brahmin performs various religious and ceremonial rituals like marriages, death ceremonies, etc., for other castes. In return for his services, the Brahmin is paid in cash and kind. Similarly, other service castes like carpenter, blacksmith, barber, washerman, cobbler, etc., perform clear caste-based occupational services for the members of the other communities. One of the distinctive aspects of the judgment system is that service relations between the judgment, producer, and the regime, client, are regulated on a hereditary basis, according to the law of inheritance. Thus, the relations between producer and the client are permanently maintained to provide continuity of service. The payment for this invoice is based on the barter system, in terms of grain at the harvest time, and cash is seldom paid. But the relation between the patron-client is not like the master-servant relation. The judgment is expected to meet the needs of his dependent and look after his family. Thus, the system provides security of occupation for sustenance. This system, however, suffers from the evils perpetuated by the caste system. It has led to the exploitation of the lower castes by the elite landowning higher castes. In spite of this weakness, the Jajmani society continues to have a stronger hold in rural India, where the social interactions are mostly governed by caste rules. For understanding the caste disparities, one must live among the people and watch the day-to-day activities and the interpersonal relations of the people from close quarters, because caste has many interlinkages with the communication behavior of the people. Despite the high degree of interdependence at the village level, different caste groups function as distinct socio-cultural entities. The caste system, in the recent past, has been exploited for acquired political patronage, leading to caste rivalries and social tensions. In view of this, the social diversity projects an image of a broken society. However, at the conglomerate level, in any of these diversities become submerged to reflect in united society, bound by common ethos, values and beliefs. 1st April 2003 Tribal communities. In India, we have about 52 million people belonging to one tribe or the other. It is estimated that there are more than 400 tribal groups scattered in different parts of the country. Most of them live in remote areas, particularly in the forest and hill tracts. A minority of them, however, are settled in industrial belts, tea gardens, mines and collieries as non-agricultural laborers. Among the states, a very high concentration of the TRNBLS is found in Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Bihar and Maharashtra, while the states of Punjab, Haryana, Jharkhand and Kasluneer have a very low percent of tribal population. In the northeastern region, in states like Nagaland and Meghalaya, we find a high concentration of TRNBLS, accounting for more than 3/4 of their total population. Similarly, Tripura, Manipur, and Sikkim also have a very high concentration of tribal people. 1st April 2004 Unity in Diversity. Underscore. India is a vast country with nearly 900 million people. It has AI-ID frontier of 15.200 km and a coastline of 6,100 km. Despite its spread, the country reflects its unity in diversity. The elderliness of the people gets exhibited clearly irrespective of the region, which they belong, from Kashmir in the north to Kanyakumari the south, from Gujarat in the west to Manipur in the east. The Indian way of looking at life, the psyche of the people as deep-rooted in the Dhamma and Karma doctrines propounded by the ancient scriptures and sages. Another distinct quality of Triple One Dio culture is manifested in the sacredness of the bonds of family life. People of all regions, irrespective of caste and creed, respect age and wisdom. Dio 11 consecrate as a communication problem. I1 Yes, I know. Give real sense for your answers. Another important contributing factor for diversity of life pattern is a striking difference between the prosperous elite and the deprived poor. In CCNNS of material living as well as skill development, the mass of the Koluman people living mostly in villages is a bit a different image from the elite. The rural-urban dichotomy conspicuously persists despite the initiatives that PGJMC it for bridging the gulf between the rich and the poor. Variety, in fact, contributes to the richness of Indian culture. The ethos rooted in diverse ecologies, religious ideas and values, yet reflects the uncreating unity of the Indian people. 1st April 2005 Little and Great Traditions. The process of cohabitation in traditional societies due to urbanization and industrialization has received the attention of many scholars who try to analyze the dynamics of change in social institutions, organizations, and human relations. Robert Redford, who pioneered studies in social change among traditive societies, postulated the theory of folk-urban continuum. He associated the folklore of the retail and tribal communities with one relatively small, close-knit, well-integrated society, in which the division of labor is simple, class differentiation is not hierarchy, kinship and family relations are strong to the moral order, even though it is not very rigidly observed. Is well respected. The urban way of life, on the other hand, is associated with a large society. In WHCH, behavior is more rational, more specific and less group-oriented. The individual is more free, has more choice in day-to-day decision-making, and is less tied to the coast. According to Redfield, each society experiencing change reflects a set of traditions. 1. The little tradition of the illiterate and semi-literate folk community, mostly shared in oral tradition, and 2. The great tradition of the urbanized community, which is formally articulated. Though the differences in great and little traditions are apparent in terms of social organization, ritual traditions, music and performing arts, 8. Continuity and high degree of sharing of the great and little traditions is observable. Scholars like Milton Singer and Mackie Marriott, who studied the process of social change in India, also observed such continuity and coexistence of the little tradition of the Ranwana tribal communities and the great tradition of the more urbanized communities. Such cultural continuity is attributed to TLR basic similarities in the Indian ethos and beliefs. However, Indian social scientists like S.C. do not agree with this trickery of dichotomous division of Indian culture into little and great traditions. 1.5 Status of women in Indian society. Society is a web of social relationships and the cordiality of leadership between men and women is fundamental to THC's leadability of the society. The status of women in a society is considered to be a critical indicator of the strength of its social organization. Literature and historical evidences establish beyond doubt that women enjoyed respect and equality with men during the Vedic period. Many women scholars, like Matri, Lopamudra, etc., contributed to the composition of Vedic literature. Both husband and wife enjoyed equal rights as joint owners of property. They shared equally in sacrifices and religious duties, and attended assemblies to participate in the political affairs. Thus, we observe that the status of women in ancient India was based on liberty, equality, tilde respect and cooperation. Even in early Buddhist period we come across women who were highly respected for their achievements in education and contributions to Buddhist literature. Sanghamitra, the sister of Ashoka, was sent to Sri Lanka to spread Buddhism. However, in the later period, women slowly lost their ground and were treated as ineligible for Vedic studies and religious rituals. By about 200 AD, the domination of men in political and religious affairs was firmly established, reducing significantly the position and status of women. During the medieval period, the position of women further deteriorated due to the introduction of Padlarhat and greater prevalence of politildalai among the kings and chieftains. The revival of sati, making it obligatory for the warrior to die on the funeral pyre of the husband, worsened the position of women and reduced their status to the level of helpless dependence. The complete neglect of education of girls and the advocacy of child marriages contributed to further degradation of the status of women. Social reviewers like Ramohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and Dayanand Saraswati took great pains during 19th century to create mass awareness and bring about significant changes in the sphere of education as well as social legislation for the improvement of the position of women in India. Inspired by these reformist movements, Mahatma Gandhi and his followers of the Indian national movement started a crusade for emancipation of women during the 20th century. Their thoughts were directed against eradication of disabilities like pada, prohibition of free marriage of widows, child marriages, etc. Another significant quoted attribution of these leaders was in respect of promotion of education among girls. Spiritual leaders like Swami Vivekananda provided tremendous support to try social upliftment of women. The call of Mahatma Gandhi facilitated many women to come out of seclusion and participate in the political movement during the freedom struggle. The Gandhian era and the post-independence period have brought about significant changes in the status and position of women in India. The Constitution has laid down as a fundamental right the equality of the sexes. Whitley spread or education and they enacted a net of laws against exploitation of women. The social scenario is fast changing. There is greater commitment at politico-administrative levels to provide more opportunities for women to assert their equality with 11 men so that they can contribute to the enrichment of the society. 1.6 Summary. In this unit, we have described briefly the socio-cultural evolution in India in its historical perspective. We have noted that the basic structure of the Indian society and the distinct way of life of the Indians has been influenced greatly by the Vedic Aryan thought and literature. Sanskrit is a rich language and the literature generated by the ancient scholars is held in high esteem by all Indians. Many of the Indian languages have their roots in Sanskrit language. The literature in modern Indian languages is greatly influenced by the ancient literature as well as the scholarly works of the foreigners who visited India. The plurality of the Indian society has contributed to richness of its culture. We have observed how the acetyldenylation of outsiders like Kushans, Indo-Greek, Huns, works, has enriched the Indian society in terms of racial integration, ethnic, linguistic, and religious plurality. Indian society has passed through many turbulent periods, but the ethos, values, and traditions have been 11 preserved to a great extent. The oral tradition of teaching and the socialization process of grooming the young in the well-knit joint families organized on caste basis have contributed immensely to the preservation of the social and cultural traditions. We have also covered in this unit the distinct folk culture shared by the tribal communities in different parts of the country and its influence on the cultural practices of many non-tribal groups. Lastly, we have discussed the status of women in the Indian society and observed that women enjoyed better status in ancient Indian as compared to the modern period. The low status accorded to women during the medieval period has greatly contributed to the neglect of women's education and welfare. Realizing the need to make women equal partners in the nation-building activities, a number of corrective measures have been taken up during the last 2 centuries. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.